Just now, we went to the ADDC. Thought I should have a look at things with my own eyes.
And? How did it go?
There's no chance you walk. You're practically a lost cause.
Hey!
Yagami-sensei, is that what you think?
It's like this, Okubo. You tell me you're innocent, and I'll fight to the end. I really have nothing to lose by helping you out.
It's just like I told you. Whoever did it is framing me.
On the day of the crime, you were in the general ward at the ADDC, yes? Starting at 8 a.m., you went around to each room and gathered the linens.
Yes. Nobody would dispute that.
And after that, you covered Waku-san's nose and mouth, suffocated him, and then carted him out in a laundry bin.
That's not true. Waku-san wasn't there when I went into his room. I didn't see him at all that day. You have to believe me.
And I do. So when you went down to leave the center at 10 a.m. after gathering the linens, you realized there was a body hidden in the truck.
Yes. That's what happened.
Then, after debating whether or not to report the body, you chose to hide it in the mountains.
I had a criminal assault on my record. I knew the police would have suspected me if I went to them.
Aren't you forgetting the bad blood you had with Waku-san?
Huh? Bad blood? What are you talking about?
3 days before the murder, Waku-san claimed Okubo-kun here punched him and stole his wallet. They told me all about it at the center.
When did you even ask?
While you were busy chatting up Terasawa-chan. Even if I bitch about it, I'm still damn good at my job.
Well, Okubo-kun, did you take his wallet, or...?
Not quite. They call it delusion of theft. It's a symptom of dementia. You think something's been stolen from you, then blame the first person you see. Not the easiest thing to deal with, right? Someone accuses you of theft for no reason? Must have been a shock. So when Waku-san tried to hit you, you just about hit him back.
But I didn't hit him.
No. You murdered him.
I wouldn't kill a man over something like that.
Ah, I wish I could believe you, pal. Come on, Okubo-kun. You got a record of violence.
It wasn't me. I swear. Somebody set me up. Please, you have to believe me. Whoever did this is laughing at all of us right now.
Calm down.
Yagami-sensei, do you believe me?
I do.
Okay. Then next time, come alone.
Fine. I can take a hint. You and Yagami-sensei can cuddle up all you want.
Hey, you know that nurse, Terasawa-san? Cute girl. It sounded like she was worried about you. Bet you'd have a chance with her once you get out of here.
I don't know. If you'll excuse me.
So Shintani just left you hanging, huh? He's gotta learn some damn patience.
Maybe so. But this is my case now. I can handle it myself.
Huh. Okay.
Yagami-san.
Hmm?
Have you seen Mafuyu lately?
Where's this coming from?
She's just not that great with men. I suggest you be more assertive.
Right. Okay.
You mean that friend of yours, Saori-kun? She's got Shintani all riled up. Said he'd have been nicer to you if he knew you had friends who looked like her. Jackass.
Hey, nothing's official yet, guys. Regardless, keep it on the down low, okay?
Yet? That word says more than you think.
Mafuyu-kun's a prosecutor, right? Isn't it kind of taboo for her to date a defense attorney?
Can we not do this?
Either way, guess the Okubo case comes first. Pleading innocent, yeah?
That's the plan.
What is your plan here? This isn't gonna be an easy win.
Well, I'm working on that. There's one piece of evidence that still bothers me.
Yeah? And what's that?
Take a look at this. It's the hospital room the victim was staying in. This is the last place Waku-san was seen before he disappeared. At the time, the witness would have seen Waku-san from this angle through the window in the door, but the cabinet here would have been blocking his face.
Uh-huh.
In other words, there's room to argue that the witness never actually saw Waku-san to begin with. It might have just looked like there was somebody in there. Or maybe the killer set it up to look that way.
And how would that impact the trial?
Well, the premise that the victim was still alive at 8 o'clock would no longer be on the table. Meaning, the crime could have occurred during a much wider time range. With that in mind, we could claim there's no proof that Okubo took Waku-san out of the room.
Right. Not bad.
What the hell's your problem?
Was that Shintani?
I think so.
Get back here!
That bastard. Oh, was eavesdropping on you.
What the hell?
I tried to stop him, but he pulled a stun gun on me.
Hey! Wait up! You won't get away! You won't get away! Woman?
Help! Someone help me!
Aren't you Terasawa-san?
Let me go!
We got a groper out here? Scum of the earth! Not on my watch, you son of a bitch!
Can all lawyers fight like that?
Did you really need to run away like that? I assume you came to see me.
There was something I wanted to talk to you about, yes. But I wasn't sure if I should. Then that pig-headed friend of yours started shouting, so I just lost it.
Okay, but did you have to tase him? Not that he didn't have it coming. Anyway, I'm listening if you want to talk. No matter what it is, I'll keep your secret. Anything you tell me will fall under client attorney privilege.
Well, you know the witness who last saw Waku-san? Said he saw him sleeping in his bed.
Uh-huh.
Well, that witness is a man by the name of Shono-san. He's one of the scientists at the ADDC. Not only that, but he's the director's right-hand man, too.
And this is him?
Yes. He's a very dedicated doctor, so the nurses have a lot of faith in him. But something felt off when I heard what he had to say about the incident.
And what's that?
I guess I'm just skeptical as to whether or not he actually saw Waku-san. I don't think he's intentionally deceiving us, but he may be mistaken somehow. And if I had to guess, I'd say the other nurses feel the same.
Still, why hasn't anyone mentioned this until now?
How could we? Nurses talking about a doctor behind his back? That's not something a nurse could do without consequences. And if it came to a courtroom testimony...
None of you would testify?
Maybe the other nurses wouldn't, but I would. I never really fit in over there anyway. Besides...
Yeah?
I think Okubo-san is innocent.
Oh, really? Sounds like I've finally got an ally on my team.
I'm currently employed as a researcher at the Advanced Drug Development Center. Part of our research consists of clinical tests we perform on patients in the general ward of the center. On the day of the crime, I was making my usual rounds through the ward.
And what time was that?
Around 7:50?
You're sure?
Yes, the patients eat breakfast at precisely 8 o'clock. I always head to the break room myself, right around then, too.
This break room, to be precise?
That's correct. Our more mobile patients walk there for breakfast instead of eating in their own rooms. Then, while the nurses help the patients eat, I ask about how they feel and how the medicine is treating them.
And on the day of Waku-san's disappearance, you passed by his room before going to the break room?
Yes.
And in that room, you saw Waku-san lying on the bed?
Yes.
Can you describe the situation to us as you remember it?
The door has a window, so you can see into the room from the hallway.
And this is the room you're referring to, yes?
That's correct. From where I was standing in the hallway, I could see Waku-san lying in bed. He was asleep, with a blanket covering most of his body.
And what time was that?
Around 7:50.
No further questions.
Yagami-sensei, why did you call her to the stand?
She actually asked to testify. Is that a problem?
Not really, no.
Terasawa-san, you were present for Shono-san's testimony just now, yes?
Yes.
And what is your opinion on that testimony?
For a scientist, I felt his wording was rather imprecise. And as a medical professional, I felt his actions were negligent.
Could I ask you to be a little more specific?
Our witness, Shono-san, claims he saw Waku-san sleeping in his bed during his morning rounds. However, there's no way he could have known that just by looking in from the hallway.
I have evidence supporting Terasawa-san's testimony. Please look at this. It's a photograph of the victim's room as viewed from the hallway. In other words, this is what Shono-san would have seen when he checked in on Waku-san. Waku-san was already dead when Shono-san went to check on him.
What are you implying?
At the time, the defendant hadn't yet collected the linens. In fact, he hadn't even arrived at the ADDC, meaning Okubo-san could not have been the murderer.
Assuming that's true, then, why did he go through the trouble of hiding Waku-san's body in his laundry cart?
Huh? Well, depending on how you look at it.
Please. You know this is a court of law, don't you?
Sorry, let me start over. Our witness, Shono-san, claims, however, I'm not convinced that... Please, it's a photograph. In other words... Shono-san was lying when he's...
Excuse me?
What he saw from the door was likely he couldn't have been able to identify it, so to claim as much in his testimony seems like quite an exaggeration, don't you think?
But common sense would dictate otherwise, would it not? Who would be in the bed other than Waku-san?
The staff nurses are trained to always enter a room when checking in on a patient. In Waku-san's case, it's impossible to tell anything just by looking in from the hallway. There was actually one time a while back where we thought he was under the covers, only to find Waku-san eating in the break room a second later. And upon re-examining the room, we realized that we had mistaken a bunched-up pillow for Waku-san.
The witness makes an important distinction. The prosecution asserts that Shono-san's testimony is clear, that the victim was taken out of his room at some point between 7:50 and 8:30 in the morning. They claim that because of this time frame, the defendant must have smuggled Waku-san's body out in his laundry bin. But if Shono-san's testimony is invalid, as the defense asserts, we have to consider the possibility that Waku-san was taken in the middle of the night when nobody else was around. After which, the killer could have waited until the morning to plant the body in the defendant's truck. In other words, the defense establishes that there is reasonable doubt that Okubo-san is the killer, rendering the prosecution's central argument unsound. Your Honor, taking this new testimony into account, I'd like to call Shono-san back to the stand for cross-examination. Shono-san.
Yes?
I'll get right to the point. On the day of the crime, what did you see when you looked into Waku-san's room?
I saw Waku-san asleep in his bed, I think.
And did you get a clear look at his face?
I don't remember.
So it's possible that it could have been someone other than Waku-san in that bed. Or maybe even a pillow that you mistook to be Waku-san's body. Isn't that right?
Objection! The defense is leading the witness.
Sustained. Please rephrase the question.
Shono-san, can you say without a doubt that Waku-san was in that bed when you checked on him?
I I don't think I can, no.
Then the defense rests. But I do have a quick remark for the prosecution.
Huh?
The charges against my client stem from your assertion that he's the only possible suspect, assuming the crime took place within the stated time frame. However, the defense has proven without a doubt that Shono-san's testimony is unreliable, establishing reasonable doubt for my client. I would suggest then that you withdraw the charges against my client. With such inconclusive evidence, you'll only be wasting the court's precious time.
The prosecution does not consider the witness's testimony inconclusive. His memory of the incident may be fuzzy, yes, but that doesn't change that he saw the victim.
So, your whole case is based on a fuzzy memory? This promising young man's future is at stake, and you're willing to throw that away on unreliable testimony?
Dr. Shono is a bright and diligent researcher. After watching his own grandmother develop dementia, he vowed to create a drug that could cure the disease. After paying his own way through medical school, he went on to become the head researcher at the ADDC. Day after day, Dr. Shono visits his sick patients out of the kindness of his heart, leading to his valiant testimony here today. If you want to know whether I trust this man, then my answer is a resounding yes.
In other words, because he's such a great researcher, his testimony is infallible. His own admission that he's not sure is somehow overlooked? Is that the sum of it? Because from here, it sounds like you're putting your faith in Shono-san's title, not his testimony today.
The prosecution is not as easily swayed as you think. And you want to talk reputation? What of your client's history of domestic abuse? 6 years ago, the defendant broke his girlfriend's finger. The poor girl is still suffering from the effects. And the cause? A minor, drunken disagreement. Now, fast forward to what occurred a few days prior to the crime. Waku-san, suspecting the defendant of stealing his wallet, lashed out and punched the defendant in the face. Given the clearly violent nature of Okubo-san here, that alone would be motivation enough to murder the poor old...
Is something wrong, ma'am? Please remain seated while court is in session. Terasawa-san?
Okubo-san is not a violent person. And he hasn't even had a drink in over 6 years. Not a single drop since the incident.
My court will not stand for this commotion.
He didn't blame Waku-san at all. He knew that the outburst was just caused by his dementia, that it was all the sickness's fault. So there was no reason for him to resort to murder.
Terasawa-san, please.
Okubo-san really is an incredible, caring person.
Please leave this courtroom at once.
You're right that he may be hard to approach, but he's a kind soul, and he always keeps his promises. Okubo-san's not the only person in this courtroom who would be affected by a guilty verdict, either. As a matter of fact, it would break my heart. And even through it all, he wanted me to keep this a secret, not to tell anyone, not even his lawyer, that we were dating. Even though he knew he could have ended up in prison, making sure I was safe was the only thing in the world he cared about. That's just who he is! But when the prosecution has already decided he's a criminal, how could he possibly be given a fair trial?
Her little outburst wasn't technically admissible, but as the trial dragged on, it hung over the jury like a stone. And in the end, Shinpei Okubo was found not guilty. But only a month after his release, everything changed. The same girl who had so bravely proclaimed Okubo's innocence died by the man's own hand.
Welcome to my party, we're just getting started. A life is a dream.